about a minute early. Talking about Saturn moving into Capricorn for the next couple years, starting on January 15th. I'm sorry, January 25th. We're here on January 15th now, and this is going to be a big shift for the next couple of years. This is no joke. Things are moving from where Saturn has been since early 2017. He's moving into the place where he's going to be for the next couple years, 2.5 years or so. And so we're now feeling this shift away from a sense of like idealism, hope, even a sense of kind of blind faith and optimism about leaders and philosophies and principles that we, believe in, which is the Sagittarius principle, making a commitment to what inspires us. This is what I was saying for the last couple of years of Saturn going through Capricorn. I'm sorry, Saturn going through Sagittarius, to moving now into Capricorn, which is where whatever it is that we think has been worth believing in and concentrating on and committing to, that inspiring vision that we've been challenged to commit to and focus on, is now getting revealed in its sort of purity, in its sort of pure form. And now we need to commit to the truth that hopefully we've been able to see, especially in the last year or so. But we can really see a lot of the shakeups and changes in the world, political world, the world politics, and a lot of the things that started even a couple years ago have just been resolved or are resolving or are culminating now. And this is that Saturn in Capricorn where we're really being challenged to see the truth the way it is and make the best decision for the long run, in the long term. So you can see as I'm recording this here on January 15th, 16th, 15th, you see Saturn is here. If I move this forward, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Well, this is the 24th. The 25th, Saturn is now in Capricorn, and he's going to be there for the next few years. Let's see the exact, we see months. This is next year. Saturn goes up until, so he pokes his head in May 2022. He'll poke his head in Aquarius. He'll probably go back. Then see he goes back into Capricorn again until the end. Now, like finally early 2023, he finally establishes himself completely in Aquarius. So literally from now until early 2023, which is about 3 years, for the most part, Saturn will be in Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is a very powerful sign for Saturn, of course, because he's the ruler of Capricorn. And when planets are in their, in the signs that they rule, they become extremely powerful. And they, become really powerful to, really deliver their energy, really deliver their truth. And as you see here on the screen, if you are interested in seeing how this shift of Saturn into his own sign of Capricorn will affect you, you can get the 2020 forecast for the next couple years. And one of the main things I'm doing in that forecast, one of the most important shifts, I'm actually analyzing 10 important shifts of this year. The first one is right now, is this Saturn entering Capricorn, where he'll be for the next couple years. But there's also many others. But one of the main things that I'm also doing is I'm going over each of the 12 signs, Saturn and Capricorn for your sign, and what to really commit to for the next couple years. Again, because it's going to be different for each of the 12 ascendants. So it's not just about your, like in general for everybody. If you're Leo, this is your 6th house. If you're Cancer, this is your 7th house, which is relationships. If you're, Taurus, this is your 9th house. So Saturn's going to be bringing that power and that pressure. So this is going to be really big for the next several years. Now, again, one of the things that we're, dealing with now as the shift is happening is we see currently Jupiter is also going through Sagittarius, where he's going to be there for much of this year. And again, if we go forward, by the way, I talk about this in the 2020 forecast I just showed you. But if we go forward, you'll also see that Jupiter winds up poking his head also in Capricorn by the end of March. If you see, I'll put this forward a week. If I go forward a week, you'll see the end of March. Well, this is actually early April until early June, or I'm sorry, until late June. Jupiter is in, Jupiter also goes into Capricorn. So we're going to have this Jupiter Capricorn conjunction. We're going to have a lot of this energy in Capricorn for this year. Whereas 2019 was really dominated by a lot of Sagittarius themes with the nodes moving, with Saturn, K2 in Capricorn and eclipses and whatnot. 2020 is really going to have a lot of Capricorn themes, because shortly thereafter, or I should say while that is happening, you can see Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars are all going to be there. So it's not just even Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn, but also Mars is also going to be there in 2020. So again, I just want you to understand this is a huge shift, and you can get that 2020 forecast. Let's do this. And if you haven't yet, see how it's going to affect your sign. I just put the link again in the chat boxes there for you. But we have a few people have showed up here live. Morley says, Namaste, Sadashivaji. Namaste. Finally, Saturn in the house. This is the thing to realize, is that Saturn going through Sagittarius has been really transformative. And I'll talk about a couple cultural things. I'm not going to get into the details, but January 2017 is when Saturn moved into Sagittarius. Culturally, this is right as Donald Trump was being inaugurated, right as he began the presidency. So we're ending that cycle. Since Trump has been president, we've had Saturn in Sagittarius pretty much the whole time. He backed up into Scorpio for a while, but it's mainly been Saturn in Sagittarius, deepening our commitment to what inspires us. And again, Sagittarius is very much about our hopes, and it's very much about politics in the real world. I should say the real world, but the world that we all share, we can see. This has been the era of things like Brexit, right? Noticing that's finally resolved. We also even see it in things like, notice how even recently, Jupiter and Sagittarius energy also has to do with things like royalty. And again, monarchs and kings and people that inspire us, popes. This has been the time where we've seen this religious scandal with the church. Saturn going through Sagittarius, really drilling down into that. Saturn going through Sagittarius, look at the monarchy. Look at all the emphasis that's been on the monarchy the last couple of years, with Harry and Meghan getting married. Now Harry and Meghan wanting to leave the monarchy. All the pressure in these institutions that inspire us. I just did recently a very in-depth video on the monarchy and the sign of Sagittarius, Leo, the sun, how these monarchs are, many of them are born around eclipses and all these eclipse energy. Again, we just had an eclipse as I record this January 16th, 2020. And right when the moon went into Magha Nakshatra after this recent eclipse, this is when the monarchy had this conference call to figure out what the heck they're going to do, because Harry and Meghan have left. There's a lot of changes and transformations and shifts that have happened the last couple years, about 3 years, since Jupiter went into Sagittarius. And so this Jupiter in Sagittarius is a cycle. This is a long-term, chunk of time. And we could see it very clearly, the Saturn Sagittarius themes. By the way, within this, we also had the Me Too movement happened within that. All of these celebrities and the celebrity culture that got really called out for their mistreatment of women and all of that stuff. Again, it's not just Saturn through Sagittarius, but it's also the transits of Jupiter and a few other things, especially that had the Me Too movement start and the women's, reclaiming a lot of power and whatnot, because Jupiter went through Libra at the same time Rahu went through Cancer. That's what really started that movement, that emphasis on women's rights and really looking at more, but it's all in the context of like justice. And Saturn going through Sagittarius, bringing about authenticity and integrity and a sense of justice. That's been the larger theme for since early 2017. Now, Saturn is moving on from finding what's just and what's right and what's truthful to now saying, okay, now we've seen a lot of the corruption and the mistakes and the things that we've been believing. We've seen a lot of those illusions shattered. The old ways aren't working anymore if we're going to take this new inspired purpose into the next generation or whatever. So that whole commitment to the next thing is Saturn in Capricorn. Okay, that's really what the Saturn in Capricorn is about. And so again, just real quick, if you do want to see how this is going to influence you for the next couple of years, it's a free web class, free 2020 web class. You can see how Saturn moving into Capricorn for the next couple of years is going to influence you, because you want to know. If you're Virgo, this is moving from the 4th house into the 5th house. So how does Saturn now going through your 5th house for the next couple of years affect you? If you're Libra, it's your 4th house. I know I have 2 really good Libra friends, and right as Saturn is on the cusp of going into their 4th house, they're selling their home and they're uprooting their entire home and moving into a new house. They've been dealing with selling their house the last couple months, because Saturn has been in transition between their 3rd and 4th houses. So all of us have been in this transition for the last couple months as Saturn gets to these last couple degrees. We've all been shifting and transitioning, whether you know it or not. You probably don't know it because you're probably not paying attention to it, but that's what I do. And that's why I make these in-depth web classes where I focus on certain things. You'll notice once you start watching this web class, by the way, you also get 10 other important shifts for this year, but you'll notice how, yeah, you know what, he's right. I'm Scorpio, and I'm feeling how Saturn's energy is shifting from my 2nd house of my values and speech and money into 3rd house, which is more about interest and finding new ways of doing things and maybe, siblings and variety and having more courage to express myself or whatever the heck it is. You'll notice this. So this is why, again, I implore people to take me up on these offers, because again, it takes a lot of work to put this together, but I like to share it for free. All you need to do when you go to the website is just click yes, reserve my seat now. You can either watch an instant replay, like you can watch it right now, or you can set up a time to select a date and time to observe it so that it gets your attention. And I do it this way. It's called an auto webinar. I do it this way so that instead of just, okay, I'm sort of cruising the internet, just kind of digesting YouTube videos, you have a dedicated space where you sit and really concentrate and pay attention. So again, that's for free. So you can check that out if you like as well. But again, the main thing here is that this is going to be a big shift for all of us. And as we move forward, whether it's personally or politically or whatever it is, this shift of Saturn into Sagittarius into Capricorn is going to be really pivotal. And we can definitely see, like for example, we have Alana says, not only will Saturn bring justice, Mola will assist Lord Saturn finishing out the deep-rooted lies effect of the Mula eclipse? Absolutely. That's a great way to see it. All of the uprooting. And by the way, the next thing we're going to have is Mars is going to be going into Sagittarius here real soon. Let me run this back to where we are now. Now we're like here. You can see we have Jupiter, Ketu are now in Purva Ashada. Saturn is Uttar Ashada. But as we move forward, you're going to see Ketu is going to start getting closer and closer into Mula. We're going to have Mars and Ketu in Mula, which I'm going to talk about. I'll do a video about this real soon. But we see right when Ketu goes into Mula, Mars goes into Sagittarius and also goes into Mula. So again, this is coming in early February, right? So this, again, there's some big uprooting happening now. Big, destruction of our ignorance and of those things that we haven't been wanting to face on many levels, right? We definitely see it playing out politically around the world with all kinds of situations. I just saw yesterday, Vladimir Putin just made big moves to consolidate his power, kind of so that he, setting himself up to be, basically like a king, like ruler for life. Dismiss the whole government, and then they sign up again under a new kind of constitution or whatever it was in Russia. Again, U.S., we just formally started the impeachment in the Senate. Now we have new evidence coming out all the time that can really shift the whole dynamic. And by the way, I said that a few weeks ago. As I've been talking about this eclipse thing, I've said my first thing was they should slow it down as much as they could. They could slow it down more. I wish Pelosi would have held on to those articles even longer. There was no rush to even do it last week or yesterday or whenever the heck it was. She should have waited even more, because there's going to be more and more coming out. The longer they wait, the more it's going to be harder for these Republicans in the Senate to say, no, don't want to hear anything, see anything. No, it's preposterous. So again, what we're seeing now, even in the last couple of days with interviews of this guy Parnas and Bolton saying that he would testify, and God knows the pressure that's going to start to be brought to bear. So we see that coming out. We also see, again, we had this major thing happen in Iran with this possible crazy escalation that happened. And, and then people taking to the streets in Iran, again, people seeing the truth of their government, of other governments, of other, of the hope and possibilities that are there, and now wanting to really bring it about, wanting to really bring about lasting change, sustaining change. And this shift with Mars Ketu coming in, especially, mid to late February, we get around this time, here with, around the 27th, particularly like these new moons and stuff. I'll do a more detailed report of a few of these hot button days, but, let's say, when the moon joins Rahu over here, okay, look at this, like this day before, like March 4th, March 3rd or 4th, the moon goes through Gemini and hits Ardra, and then Mars Ketu on the opposite end. Mark that date on your calendar. March 4th could be a very explosive day. I'll just do a little bit of it right here. March 3rd and 4th. This is, and 5th, this transit here. And a couple weeks before as well. When we go back over here, this moon, where the moon is debilitated, this is February 17th. Now February 18th, again, 18th, 19th, 17th, 18th, 19th of February. And then this March, this is some explosive potential here, right? Especially when the moon hits this axis and also goes over this recent eclipse point. This is big stuff because Mars is also going to hit that eclipse point. So some real potential explosiveness. And this could be, unfortunately, things like renewed war, escalation with Iran, other kinds of things in the world that we can't really plan on, like a terrorist attack or some other kind of thing, maybe natural disasters, any kind of things. They're all possible. By the way, we've also had these volcanoes erupting around this eclipse, We're in a very volatile time right now. Look around you. Because right now we're seeing all of this transitional energy. Because right now, again, as we just had this eclipse, this is where we're at right now. Again, just to go back to where we are. Right now, we're here. So this is where we are right now. A few days ago, we were here. This was the 12th. We had Mercury, Saturn, Sun. Saturn is combust with the Sun. Mercury was there. We just had this eclipse. This is when we had the eclipse, this pile up of planets. This was on like the 9th. This was on the 10th. This is when we had the eclipse. Since then, Sun and Mercury have left. So you've seen that diffused. You've seen the situation like in Iran and all of that, with all that escalation with the world on edge. That's diffused, a bit because Sun and Mercury left this eclipse axis. But again, then energy gathers in a different way. Mars is about to come in and all that. So this is in a more, mundane sense, but to see what's coming is why I'm doing this. And this transit of Saturn, going into Capricorn is showing a real shift. And again, I think what's going to wind up happening, especially, it's getting harder and harder. And I said it before, go back and watch the videos. It's going to get harder and harder for these like Republicans in the Senate to just keep going, no, because more stuff is going to keep coming out. This is why I said the more they drag it out, the better, because it's going to get harder and harder. Again, it's already hard for John Bolton to say, I want to testify. And Bolton was right in the room with Trump. These people are just obviously trying to protect him. And again, this is also the truth that we're going to see. I've been saying the whole time that we're going to see the truth. That doesn't mean any outcome, like there's going to be an impeachment or whatever. Whatever the outcome is, we're going to see the truth. Like we're going to see one side who actually wants to find out what happened, and the other side going, no. We'll see that too. But it's going to get harder and harder the longer it goes for that side to keep doing that. And we'll see that truth also. That's also a truth. But again, I also said, especially once Saturn goes into Capricorn, even that whole blinders on, which is very much about Saturn and Sagittarius, saying, no, I still have faith, I still believe. At some point, especially like after the 24th or 25th, it's going to get harder and harder because the weight and the gravitas of what we see is going to be so obvious that it's harder and harder to just keep your hopeful blinders on. No, this is the dear leader and I got to do anything or whatever it might be. Now, I'm talking about that from the point of view of like American politics, but even in a lot of ways, like we see it like in Iran with them protesting, the United States for killing their general, which of course it was very likely a war crime. We also see our government and even, for example, like Republicans in our government questioning Trump and saying, you can't do this. You need to give us evidence of what was the intelligence that made you say that this was legal. And they've been pressing him on that. But again, even around the world, we also see people in the streets of Iran protesting their government, which was already happening before the U.S. intervened or stuck their nose in it again. But we might see uprisings in Russia. Russian people aren't stupid either. They can also see what Putin is doing. I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing those kinds of uprisings because this Jupiter in Sagittarius has also been very much, again, it's about royalty and it's about privilege and entitlement also being pressured and challenged. So we might see with Saturn going through Capricorn, much more of the sort of proletariat, the commoners, the people saying, look, you people in power that we were looking for to inspire us, you have disappointed us. We see it now. We see the truth. We see you're all a bunch of corrupt bastards. Sorry, another word didn't come to my mind. I had bastards in my mind and I didn't want to say it, and another word didn't come, so I said it. But we don't trust you. And so facing that harsh reality, right? So again, these are the kinds of things that we can start to see. So Someone asked, are your friends the early degree of Libra? Actually, one of them, yes. They have Chitra Nakshatra. And so again, this is Saturn going over that fourth house cusp. That's the context. And so it was asked, could we consider that as a double Mars energy and things happening with double force? You're talking about the K2 Mars. There's no reason to see it double Mars. You just analyze the planet what it is. Double Mars, it's K2 Mars. They're different energies. K2 has a feeling of Mars, so just analyze K2. You don't have to look for shortcuts. Double Mars, no, Mars, K2. And, K2 is very explosive, and it's very kind of smoldering kind of explosiveness where we're absolutely disgusted and ready to blow everything up because we're like this smoldering, violence. By the way, that also has to do with Mula Nakshatra, 9/11, and flying the planes into buildings, and that act had a lot of K2 Mars and Mula energy. In fact, I'll pull up the chart. I'll pull up the chart right now. It's actually 9/11/2001. It was about 10 a.m. in New York City. I'll pull up the chart right now and you'll see it. K2 Mars in Mula. So this was 9/11/2001. This was it was actually the first. Oh, sorry. Let me pull up the charts. Sorry. This was actually, by the time of 10 a.m., the second plane had hit, but the first plane had hit, and the event started with the ascendant was in Virgo, and you had Moon, Rahu, Jupiter in Gemini in the 10th house of the local chart. So again, Moon, Rahu, and Mars, Ketu here. This is why I said, if we go forward, so this is the month before Moon, Rahu, but Ketu isn't there yet. Then if we go forward to the next month, the next time Rahu goes over the moon, we have Moon, Rahu here, and Ketu, Mars here. Look at this. Look at the similarities. Moon, Rahu, Mars, Ketu, and Jupiter is here. This one, Jupiter is here. So look at the similarities of these two charts. So this is why we have some very explosive, difficult things coming. And by the way, I will absolutely unequivocally say that I have no doubt that the President of the United States would do a military incursion, a sort of wag the dog kind of thing, which means a military adventure to distract from impeachment or whatever. I have absolutely no doubt that he would do that. Anyone who does, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what you're looking at, but I think he would do pretty much anything. And he's even already said, we shouldn't be doing this impeachment while I'm involved in this thing with Iran or whatever. So these are some scary times going on right now that could be coming out. So I'll go over a few questions here and look. I'm not going to get into a political thing. So anymore. It says, Virginia declared a state of emergency because of credible threats of violence at our demonstrations to stop gun violence. Yeah. So we can really have a lot of, we could really have a lot of this kind of thing really blowing up. It's time to really say our prayers and, for our leaders and for, cooler heads to prevail. Money, power, position will not be enough anymore. And so I'm not sure what this is. Sam, don't you believe that the transit of Saturn in one of his own signs for the next 2.5 years is giving indication to serve humanity and social deprived people wherever we are? Don't I believe what? I never said anything contradicting this. We are also definitely, seeing the truth behind the political solutions that we thought were going to help us. And so this is certainly not off the table. So how will these times affect food and water supply for the masses? Well, I'm not sure, but definitely, the environmental issues and the larger causes that unite us are going to become more and more important. And all these political solutions and politics, again, we're going to have to start waking up to the way we're all being controlled by the corruption. U.S. probably more than any, I don't know the politics of every other country, but especially the way our money is allocated, tax money going to just serve the military industrial complex, no money for things like our schools and our roads and our health, nothing, but all this money for defense contractors and providing endless war. This is horrible, and it's time that hopefully first the people of the U.S. start to wake up to all this stuff. But again, really seeing this, really seeing these things clearly are really going to be possible. And the Saturn moving through Sagittarius for the last couple of years has really provided a platform for that, to have our illusions shattered around these things that we thought were going to save us. Again, look at all the institutions, politics, the church. Look at all the Catholic Church scandals of the last couple of years as well. The priest abuse exploded during that time. Again, the women's issues, politics and the corruption on all around, if not the corruption, but just the self-serving interest. And again, those who think I am just a liberal or whatever, listen, I'm just as disgusted with the Democrats as the Republicans, both of them. Opportunistic, cowards, or whatever it is. Again, and it's because the system is so horrible. And that, that is something that we, can't, get away from. And so what we need to do, this next world, hopefully we can navigate through the dangers, and that this explosiveness in Sagittarius and in, that's upcoming will be a catalyst for a lot of spiritual change, because it all has to come from us as individuals first. Learning to, be peaceful and still. Again, it doesn't mean you're meditating and you're doing your practices to block out the world and not notice anything. No, but we have to also become self-actualized, and then start to share that deeper compassion and not be so triggered by everything external. And so, I hope this is a helpful message that we can, learn from and benefit from as we're moving into the next level. And again, this has been a time to really focus on those teachings that are also not pure and not true and that are corrupt. We've also seen these things in the spiritual world, in the astrology world, in the yoga world, scandals and false information and things that are misleading and that are not pure and correct. So it's time to have, to look at those things and then go to the next level with it, and use our discrimination and our intelligence and do our practices. I've been doing a lot of readings since the year started, and just to share, these are really pressure-filled times. These are really pressure-filled times. As Mateo says, the system itself is a distraction. The system of politics and culture, definitely the distraction. is definitely a distraction, but it's also, as much as everyone thinks they're spiritual and I'm doing all of this and I study astrology and I believe all this and I get it. Thank you. That's so inspiring. Great. Thank you. Thank you. But why am I still upset? I still have this. I still have this way. My emotions. When am I going to do this? When am I going to get this relationship? Why do I still feel so bad? All of this stuff that hardly nothing changes. And it doesn't change because nobody's doing their meditation. Nobody's actually doing spiritual practice. Listening to astrology videos or reading books or doing this or doing that isn't spirituality. It's better than listening to other things, but spirituality are practices that you do, and you do them every day, just like you brush your teeth every day and you wash your clothes and you take a shower. What if you just didn't do it? What if you're like, I did it. Yeah, I meditated last week. Yeah, I meditate. What if it's like, yeah, I brushed my teeth last week. I took a shower last week. You have to do it every day. That's what sadhana is. That's what the spiritual practices are. You do them every day. Or you're not growing. Or otherwise you're just triggered. You're just a triggered animal. That's not much better. Not much better than just a triggered animal. Triggered by all of your samskaras and your karmas and your emotional buttons. And you spend your life trying to navigate around those buttons. And spirituality is another way to do that. Oh yeah, I spiritually navigate everything. Instead of showing up boldly and being able to deal with what happens and having your spirituality, your spiritual practices be the thing that allows you to show up and meet the challenges, meet the things, and do what you know is right. We don't do what we know is right. We do what's safe, what allows us to navigate all of our buttons. And we think that's spiritual because we learn how to avoid difficulty in our personal life or whatever, and then form a lot of opinions about other things, but wonder why nothing much really changes. Nothing much really changes that much. Be honest, it doesn't. It takes nothing to get a reaction out of you. It takes nothing to get your feelings hurt or get angry or this or that. We're still triggered constantly. Not just you, me too. I'm not better than you. I'm just saying we need to practice. We need to do practices. Every day we need to do sadhana. Nothing else really changes unless we do the spiritual practice. We connect through breath, mantra, yoga, asanas, whatever it is. We have to do the practice. And your spiritual growth and your life and your happiness and peace or whatever else is directly commensurate and measured by how much of that you're doing. And those of you who do it know what I'm saying is exactly correct. Those who never do it probably think I'm just being judgmental and preachy. This is the difference, but I'm going to say it anyway. So those practices are what allow you to sink deeper and see all of the, see all of the gains and losses, wins and this and that in a proper context, in a higher context, in a higher perspective. So you're not just triggered by everything. You see it all happening. And yes, it's heartbreaking to see us destroying the environment or seeing the corruption or seeing people not taken care of, seeing all the waste, seeing all of it. It doesn't stop hurting, but it doesn't define you either. You're not defined by it. And you're also not avoiding things. You can show up and face it because you're connected and rooted in something deeper. So again, I'm not just saying this in a vacuum. I'm saying this because this is what Saturn in Sagittarius is also about. I'm sorry, Saturn in Capricorn is also about. Saturn is the planet that allows us to face those things and concentrate and be alone and be still. And thrive in that solitude and be able to be, be very functional in our aloneness and in our, without needing a lot of flowery ideas to comfort us and to console us. Saturn is where, on some level, we're inconsolable. You can't console anyone as it relates to the Saturn areas of life. For example, we're all going to die. You can't console anyone on that. It's a fact. If you think that's just negative, then you're just immature. And I don't want to try to console you. I can't console you on that fact. There's no getting around it. Not just you, everybody you know, everyone you love, eventually is going to die. And if you need to be consoled about that, instead of blaming someone who would say that to you because, oh, that's not nice, and God, how negative, or whatever it is that comes in your mind, you need to look at the fact that you are trying to be consoled about the truth. This is a truism that you're never going to avoid. And Saturn is where we're willing to face those things and not be a baby about them and need to be consoled about them. And again, this is just, however much you're able to handle that and handle those things, that's how much growth, that's how much you've grown in your life. That's how mature you are. That's how much you're able to live in peace. Because again, we also only have so much peace relative to how well we're able to handle these, quote, harsh realities that aren't even really harsh. If they're harsh, then we're immature. It's not harsh. It's that we need to grow more. And we need to be able to sit with that painful truth. The point is, Saturn going through Capricorn, that is really the power of Capricorn. Because it's that feeling of dread that Saturn can give us. It's that feeling of wanting to avoid that thing. Wanting to avoid that death and wanting to avoid that situation that we feel we can't control. And so Capricorn energy is first that feeling. And facing that feeling means then we go in and look at it objectively, and we wind up being alone and doing things like meditation and spiritual practice, because we have no other solution. There is no external solution to it. It's nowhere. You're not going to fix it. So when people have powerful planets in Capricorn, like Saturn, or even like Mercury and Venus, or when the moon is there or the sun is there, or they have a Capricorn ascendant or something like that, they're aware of this. They've always been aware of it. It's been something in their life. They've always understood. And what happens when we understand this is we become grateful, we become humble, we become sensitive, often forgiving, because we realize that time is fleeting and we have no control over its inevitable outcome. Inevitably, we're all marching toward this thing. Face it or not, it's happening. And we appreciate the passage of time and those who have invested time in us, and those things that, whether they hurt us or didn't hurt us, that by hanging on to the past and the regrets, we hurt ourselves. We don't hurt the past, we don't hurt them, we hurt ourselves. So being able to age and grow gracefully through time is what Saturn is really about. So it's time to leave the childish ideas, the childish, well, but I want it all to work out. I'm hopeful. And oh, I was hopeful in my childhood and I hoped this would work out and it didn't. So now I'm bitter and angry and accusing and all kind of twisted up over it. It's useless, particularly now as Saturn is moving past the Jupiter energy. And again, Saturn tries to find the pure essence of that and squash or destroy the childish essence of it. And again, the childish essence of Jupiter is some leader is going to save me. Some religion's going to save me. Something's going to save me. No, it's not going to save you. Those great teachings and inspirations are meant to find you a great teaching, a pure teaching that you then practice, which is Capricorn. Jupiter The Sagittarius energy is finding this thing that inspires you, committing to that thing that's worthy of your higher energy, and then committing to it, which is Saturn. And then the commitment becomes practice in Capricorn. Those of you who watch my stuff hear me say this all the time. The inspiration of Sagittarius and the gurus and the teachers lead to the focus and effort and sadhana and practice of Capricorn. That comes from Saturn, and Saturn going into Capricorn is saying, okay, here it is. What do you believe, Sagittarius, and how much are you putting it into practice? So the next 3 years, pretty much, because Saturn is then going to poke his head into Aquarius, which is also ruled by Saturn, but we got Saturn in his own signs for the next 5-6 years. It could be one of the greatest times in your life if you're a spiritual practitioner. Saturn only goes through his own signs 6 out of 30 years. And now is the time. So don't waste it. And again, if you're interested in seeing how this is going to affect you, let's say, for the next couple years, again, I have that web class that you're all free to attend. It's free. And I talk about how Saturn is going to be affecting you and influencing you for the next couple years. You just go there and you can fill out, find a time. If you haven't done it yet, again, it's free, no obligation. And put up the banner again. And you just go there, and Saturn and Capricorn for your sign and what to commit to for the next 2 years. You also get the other important shifts in 2020. You just go there, you click yes, reserve my seat now, either watch the replay instantly, so you can watch it immediately as soon as you go there, or you can also get the replay afterward, or you can pick a time and then you'll be notified of a specific time to dedicate your headspace to watching it. So again, I hope this was helpful for people to see, and that it was helpful to have me describe this transition from Saturn and Jupiter to Saturn in Capricorn. And we'll just leave it at that. And you take care.